What if the best customer in the world never ran out of money, always paid on time, and bought again and again? That customer already exists. Governments function as the most powerful and reliable customers in the global economy because their spending is built on an entirely different foundation than private markets. Unlike individuals or corporations, governments do not depend on quarterly profits, consumer confidence, or access to credit in the same way. Their money comes from taxes collected across millions of people and businesses, creating an enormous and continuous pool of capital. Every year, governments around the world allocate trillions of dollars to purchase goods and services that keep society functioning. Roads must be built and maintained. Hospitals must operate. Armies must be equipped. Data systems must be secured. And public institutions must continue to run regardless of economic conditions. This constant demand makes governments uniquely insulated from the financial pressures that affect private buyers. One of the most important aspects of government spending is that it does not disappear during economic downturns. When recessions hit, private companies cut costs, households reduce spending, and investment slows. Governments, however, often increase spending during these periods. Political leaders are under pressure to create jobs, stabilize industries, and prevent social unrest. Cutting spending is rarely rewarded by voters, especially when public services are already stretched thin. As a result, government contracts continue to flow even when markets are unstable. This makes governments one of the few buyers that businesses can rely on when everything else feels uncertain. Government spending also operates on a scale that is difficult to comprehend. Entire industries exist primarily to serve public demand rather than private consumers. Infrastructure projects alone can involve billions of dollars and span decades. Defense programs require long-term commitments, continuous upgrades, and maintenance contracts that last generations. Healthcare systems rely on government funding to supply medicines, equipment, and services at massive scale. Technology contracts power national databases, cloud systems, surveillance networks, and cybersecurity infrastructure. In many cases, once a government commits to a system, replacing it becomes politically, financially, and logistically difficult, locking in years of future spending. Another defining feature of governments as customers is their predictability. Budgets are planned years in advance, debated publicly, and approved through formal processes. While political changes can shift priorities, the overall structure of spending remains consistent. Governments must keep operating regardless of who is in power. Schools must open, utilities must function, and national security must be maintained. This creates a level of demand stability that private markets rarely offer. For businesses that manage to secure government contracts, revenue becomes less volatile and more resistant to sudden shocks. Perhaps the most powerful element of government spending is its ripple effect across the entire economy. When governments pay one company, that money does not stop there. Contractors hire workers, purchase materials, lease equipment, and rely on subcontractors. Those workers then spend their income on housing, food, and services, spreading the impact even further. This multiplier effect is why government contracts are often described as the backbone of modern economies. They do not just fund projects. They sustain employment, stabilize industries, and shape the direction of economic growth. In this sense, governments are not just customers, but economic engines whose spending influences nearly every layer of society. Government contracts operate within a highly competitive environment that resembles a high-stakes battle rather than a simple business transaction. When a government announces that it needs a project completed or a service delivered, it releases a formal request that immediately attracts attention from across the industry. Companies of all sizes begin preparing to compete, knowing that only one winner will ultimately secure the deal. This structure creates an intense, winner-takes-all dynamic, where the rewards for success are enormous and the consequences of failure are simply wasted time, money, and effort. Despite these odds, companies continue to participate because the potential payoff can redefine their future. The bidding process itself is costly and demanding. Organizations may spend weeks or months assembling detailed proposals that outline technical solutions, pricing structures, timelines, staffing plans, and compliance documentation. Lawyers, accountants, engineers, and professional proposal writers are often involved, each adding to the overall expense. For many companies, the cost of submitting a single bid can reach tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, with no guarantee of success. Yet businesses willingly absorb these costs because a single contract can provide steady revenue for years or even decades. Competition intensifies because government contracts often come with long-term stability and prestige. Winning one contract not only provides immediate income, but also signals credibility to the market. Other governments, agencies, and even private companies see a successful government contractor as proven and reliable. This reputation advantage explains why companies are willing to fight aggressively for their first win. Once inside the system, future opportunities become easier to access, as prior experience becomes a powerful qualification in itself. The scale of competition is another defining characteristic. In many cases, dozens or even hundreds of firms submit bids for the same contract. Some are large corporations with extensive resources, while others are specialized firms attempting to compete through expertise or niche capabilities. This concentration of competition drives prices down while raising quality standards, forcing companies to optimize every aspect of their operations. The pressure to stand out leads to innovation, efficiency, and constant improvement. But it also creates a harsh environment where most participants walk away empty-handed. Despite the chaos, the structure favors persistence. Many companies lose repeatedly before ever winning a contract. Each failed bid provides insight into government expectations, pricing norms, and evaluation criteria. Over time, companies refine their approach, strengthen their credentials, and improve their chances. This process filters out those unwilling or unable to endure repeated losses. What remains are organizations prepared to operate at the highest levels of professionalism and resilience. In this way, government contracting becomes less about a single bid and more about surviving long enough to secure a decisive victory that transforms competition into long-term dominance. Most government work is not performed directly by the companies that sign the contracts. Instead, it exists within a layered structure where large organizations sit at the top and thousands of smaller businesses operate beneath them. When a government awards a major contract, it typically selects a prime contractor, a company responsible for managing the entire project, meeting deadlines, controlling costs, and ensuring that every requirement is satisfied. These prime contractors rarely handle all aspects of the work themselves. The scope of government projects is often too large, too complex, or too specialized for a single organization to manage alone. Beneath the prime contractor is an extensive network of subcontractors, each providing a specific service or product. These companies may manufacture components, develop software, analyze data, conduct testing, or deliver highly specialized expertise. Many of them never interact directly with government officials, yet their survival depends entirely on government-funded projects. Their relationship is with the prime contractor, not the state, but the money flowing through the system ultimately comes from public budgets. This structure allows governments to work efficiently with a small number of trusted entities while still accessing the capabilities of countless specialized firms. This subcontracting ecosystem exists across nearly every sector. In defense, massive corporations oversee weapons systems while smaller firms produce electronics, materials, and software. In construction, a single company may manage a highway project while dozens of subcontractors handle paving, engineering, logistics, and safety. In healthcare, pharmaceutical giants coordinate large-scale production while research labs, manufacturers, and distributors operate behind the scenes. In technology, major cloud providers host government data while smaller cybersecurity and analytics firms maintain and enhance those systems. The visible names receive most of the attention, but the real workforce is distributed across thousands of less-known businesses. The economic importance of this structure cannot be overstated. Subcontracting spreads risk, accelerates innovation, and allows governments to tap into cutting-edge capabilities without constantly switching prime contractors. It also creates deep dependencies. When a prime contractor secures a long-term agreement, the subcontractors tied to that project gain stability, predictable income, and the opportunity to grow. Over time, entire companies are built around servicing a single prime contractor's government work. This creates loyalty, specialization, and efficiency, but it also creates vulnerability. If the prime contractor loses a future bid, the entire network beneath it can suffer. This layered system explains why government spending quietly sustains vast portions of the economy. Many businesses that appear private or independent are, in reality, indirectly funded by public money. Their employees, investments, and growth trajectories are shaped by government priorities even if the connection is not obvious. The subcontracting model turns government contracts into economic ecosystems rather than isolated deals, embedding public spending deep into the structure of modern industry and making government influence far more widespread than it appears on the surface. When a government needs something built, supplied, or managed, it follows a formal process designed to appear fair, structured, and transparent. Officially, this process begins with a request for proposal, a document that outlines exactly what the government wants, how the final outcome should function, the constraints involved, and the budget range available. This announcement is made public so that qualified companies can compete for the work. On the surface, it looks like a straightforward competition where the best idea at the right price wins. In reality, this process is one of the most demanding and resource-intensive systems in the business world. Companies responding to a request for proposal often spend weeks or months preparing detailed submissions. These documents can run hundreds or even thousands of pages, covering technical specifications, timelines, pricing models, risk management strategies, staffing plans, cybersecurity measures, and legal compliance. Every claim must be supported with evidence, certifications, and prior performance records. The cost of preparing a single proposal can easily reach tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, with no guarantee of success. For many businesses, this alone is enough to prevent participation. Before a company is even allowed to submit a proposal, it usually must pass a long list of qualification requirements. These include financial audits, proof of stability, insurance coverage, data protection standards, environmental compliance, and in many cases, years of documented experience on similar projects. Governments are highly risk-averse and prioritize reliability over creativity. They are not looking for bold experiments or untested ideas. They want certainty, predictability, and proof that the company can deliver without failure or scandal. This mindset automatically favors established players and excludes newcomers, no matter how capable they may be. Even after meeting all the formal requirements, competition remains intense. Hundreds of companies may pursue a single contract, each backed by legal teams, consultants, and proposal specialists whose entire careers are dedicated to winning bids. The evaluation process itself can take months, sometimes years, as committees analyze every detail and eliminate candidates through multiple rounds. Most participants walk away with nothing except sunk costs and experience. Yet companies keep coming back because the reward for winning is transformative. Securing one government contract changes everything. It establishes credibility, builds trust, and creates a track record that makes future bids easier. Governments prefer suppliers they already know and have worked with successfully. Once a company proves itself, it is no longer treated as a risk but as a known quantity. This creates momentum, where each successful project increases the likelihood of the next. Over time, this cycle becomes self-reinforcing, allowing certain companies to dominate entire sectors. This is why government contracting feels inaccessible to outsiders. It is not just about offering the best solution, but about surviving a process built to filter out uncertainty. The system rewards patience, scale, compliance, and endurance, turning government contracts into one of the most stable yet difficult sources of revenue in the global economy. While government contracts are officially presented as open, competitive, and transparent, there is an underlying reality that shapes who actually wins most of the time. On paper, every qualified company has a chance. In practice, long-standing relationships, institutional familiarity, and political influence often determine which businesses are positioned closest to opportunity. This hidden layer does not always involve illegal behavior, but it operates in a space where access, proximity, and trust matter more than innovation or pricing alone. One of the most powerful forces behind this system is lobbying. Large corporations spend enormous amounts of money to maintain constant contact with policymakers and regulators. These efforts are framed as education and advocacy, but the end result is influence. By shaping how problems are defined and which solutions are considered realistic, lobbyists ensure that upcoming contracts align with what their clients already provide. When a request for proposal is released, it often reflects years of behind-the-scenes conversations, making it far easier for certain companies to meet the requirements than others. Another structural advantage comes from what is commonly referred to as the revolving door. Government officials frequently leave public service and accept high-paying roles at the same companies they once oversaw. Later, some of them return to government in advisory or leadership positions. Over time, this creates a shared culture and mutual understanding between regulators and contractors. Decisions are made faster, trust is assumed rather than earned, and familiarity replaces scrutiny, even when everything is technically legal. The outcome is a system where insiders consistently benefit. Despite this, the system is not completely closed. Occasionally, a new company breaks through and disrupts the existing order. This usually happens when the incumbent providers become too expensive, too slow, or too inefficient. When pressure mounts to deliver better results at lower costs, governments may be forced to take a risk on a new player. When that gamble pays off, it can permanently reshape an entire industry. These moments are rare, but they prove that access is difficult, not impossible. Once a new company succeeds, it quickly becomes part of the same ecosystem it once challenged. Trust replaces skepticism, repeat contracts follow, and the company gains the same advantages that once worked against it. This is how dominance is built in government contracting, not through a single deal, but through consistency, compliance, and long-term alignment with public institutions. In the end, government contracts represent one of the most powerful engines of wealth in the modern world. They are stable, massive in scale, and insulated from many of the shocks that affect private markets. But they are also deeply competitive, politically entangled, and structurally biased toward those who already understand how the system works. For those who manage to enter and survive, the rewards are extraordinary. For everyone else, it remains a distant and often invisible economy shaping the world from behind the scenes. If you want to understand how money, power, and systems really work, check out my other videos right here. Subscribe and watch next.